You know, I've been thinking a lot about the Mothman. A lot of people have misconceptions about said Mothman, and a lot of them really aren't true. As a person, I'm sure anyone who listens to me knows that I'm always on the pursuit of happiness, and I know a lot of things about, you name it. Anything that you can name, I know probably a lot about it, as long as it's not, lies presented by the government. And so things like the Mothman are definitely in my wheelhouse. Now, I've done a lot of study about the Mothman. He lived in Virginia and haunted the Silver Bridge, which was next to an abandoned TNT factory. That's all the backstory you need to know. Now, he was described as not less like a moth and more like a bat. I'm not sure how they got mixed up. I imagine someone was drunk when they were describing it, or an idiot, and the name stuck. But he was like 6 foot, 7 foot tall, leathery figure with bat-like wings and horrifying face, and the biggest thing was his red glowing eyes. None of those are similar to a moth whatsoever. So I don't know what people were thinking when they named him that. But people would be driving along the road to the Silver Bridge and he'd attack them. And it just spooked the living daylights out of them. And no one thought to shoot him or run him over. They were just too spooked. And I can't blame them. You're an uninitiated civilian who doesn't deal with these sorts of cryptozoological issues, and you're just not prepared to combat things like the Mothman, like the Dogman, like the Swamp Ape, not the Squonk Ape. That's a completely different thing, the Squonk Ape, and you don't, if you're ever in the Amazon rainforest, bad idea, but if you ever are, keep an ear out. This is a little bit of tangent, but I'll go on it to keep my listeners on the up and up. If you're ever on the Amazon River in the Amazon rainforest and you hear the distinctive squonk, I'm not an ape, so I have trouble imitating it. It sounds more animalistic than that, more like an ape, but it is described as a squonk, a distinctive squonk noise over the din of the rest of the bugs and animals that make noise in the rainforest at night. If you ever hear that, keep your head down, climb as high as you can up. Despite being an ape, it's not a very good climber, but if you don't, expect to have your face degloved, your arms, your body degloved and torn apart. Apes, you don't want to mess with them, even the ones that scientists acknowledge, like the chimpanzee. They're nasty creatures, unlike the Sasquatch, and it's just, they're violent. They're a lot like us. This is a little bit of a tangent, but these apes, like chimpanzees, the reason they're so strong compared to us humans, people will say they're 10 times as strong as us, 25 times as strong as us. It's because their muscles work differently. Our muscle from the shoulder is connected down the elbow, and then the elbow to the wrist, and it's segmented. So I think it gives us a bit more fine control, but an ape will have a big sturdy muscle from the shoulder all the way down to the wrist that gives them this mechanical energy, this vigor, and it's really terrifying. They just don't have the empathy and the humanity to keep themselves from murdering people, and people keep them as pets, and I just wouldn't advise that unless you're well armed at all times. So yeah, the Squonk Ape is no joke. So keep your eye out for that if you're ever in the rainforest. But as I was talking about, the topic of this discussion is the Mothman, not the Squonk Ape or any other ape. So I'll get back on track. The Mothman, so he kept being reported until one day the Silver Bridge collapsed, and I believe there were casualties. And after that, the Mothman stopped being sighted. Now, there are two camps when it comes to the Mothman. Some believe that the Mothman caused the Silver Bridge to collapse. And personally, I don't think that's the case. What I think is firmly in the other camp, that he was trying to warn people, trying to get them to stay away from the Silver Bridge. People would hear about the Mothman and be less likely to want to go along that road. And I really think, back to my lead-in the pursuit of happiness, I think I know that there are benign, helpful cryptids out there in the world, such as the Sasquatch. The Sasquatch, he's benign. I wouldn't say he's overly helpful, but there are ones out there that genuinely want to help humans like us, human beings. And they can't be direct about it because it's the duality of humankind. Fear is a big driving factor in us, and we would attack a Mothman if he tried to come out. It's like that movie, the one with the alien that comes down, The Day the Earth Stood Still, where we attacked him and he was trying to save us, just like the Mothman. And the duality of it is then, after the fear goes away, eventually we start to sexualize things. And that's how I think humanity will win the stars someday. Once we stop being held down by the governments and shadow governments of the world that keep this knowledge of aliens and intergalactic travel out of our hands. Once that starts being an issue in the future, and we start putting ourselves out there, I think we will win the galaxy with diplomacy based on humans' ability to sexualize anything. Even aliens will bone them. But that takes that first contact and that potential first war, those first battles, for us to get over our fear and demonization of things we don't understand. And in the Mothman case, that would end with his death, and he's the only Mothman there is. There wouldn't ever be the reconciliation, the diplomacy, and that would be a real shame, because he has been saving people, warning them off with attempts to scare us for generations, for millennium. You don't hear about these as much as the Mothman. He's a big deal in the United States, and not so much other places. But you go back, let's say Chernobyl. Before the meltdown in Chernobyl, Ukraine, near Pripyat, the nuclear power plant that everyone knows, it went off, and Chernobyl's a whole nother subject for me. But to keep this brief, before that, people were reported seeing the black bird of Chernobyl. Now, again, Mothman is not a moth, and he's not a bird either, but he's more like a bird. And they described this vast bird that would fly by, and big, black, dark eyes, glowing eyes, I mean. And I don't think it worked as well because of communism and the mindset that it instilled. It didn't save anyone. But he was trying to warn them about the impending nuclear meltdown in the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, just like he was trying to warn the people about the Silver Bridge going down. And that's just how it is. And it's really sad that people assume that he is a bad guy, that he's either some monster just scaring people and is unconnected, or that he caused it. It's just beyond the pale that we have so few allies in the larger picture, that we need to cherish anyone who can vouch for us, anyone who will protect us from the things that our government keeps us from seeing. It's a world of darkness out there, beyond reason, and we need to cling to what we barricade ourselves in our concrete cities, hook it in to the TV and the media that just gets drilled into our brain to dull us. And we don't notice these things. The internet is one of the last great exchanges of information that isn't controlled, and it's going to be a shame when that happens. And I think it'll be temporary, but it will happen. So yeah, like I said, we need to cherish things like the Mothman. You know, you go back, the Owlman in England, you go back, there's reports of a similar creature in Croatia, in Yugoslavia during World War II. You go back even further, all the way back to China had a lot of wars back in medieval times. The An-Lushan Rebellion was one of the most, in terms of percentage, had the most casualties of any conflict per capita at the current in the percentage of human, like the entire human population of the world, in percentage, in numbers, World War II, that's the one. Straight numbers, but percentage of the total human population, the An-Lushan Rebellion killed so many, percentage-wise. And that's just one of the many wars in China, and there are, reports of this beast, this Owlman, scaring people who are going to be called to these wars. And that's really all I want to get across. I don't want to go into a long tangent about the Owlman, because he's a mysterious figure. There's not that much information about him that isn't fake or circumstantial. But you need to understand, if you're going into this thinking that every cryptid, every creature that gets reported is out to do us harm, it's better to be safe than sorry. But keep your mind open. The Owlman, the Mothman, that is, the black bird of Chernobyl, is a benign, helpful being who only wants to help humanity. So keep that in mind. And don't go out there and slander the Mothman anymore. Got that, guys? Alright, thank you. Now, I've got to go help my brother. He's been doing some hunting, and he killed a couple of deer. I don't really want to get into the details. There's some extenuating circumstances I'm not at liberty to say I don't want to go too deep into it, but he really needs my help with those deer that he brought in. So I need to go and help him with that. I just wanted to record this now. So thanks a lot. I really appreciate all my listeners. So have a nice day.